It's an astronaut riding a unicorn. You know?
It's about as believable as the moon landing.
It's so cool.
It is.
If you're gonna ride a unicorn, if you dressed up like an astronaut, that'd be even cooler.
I would rather own a unicorn than be an astronaut. But if you own a unicorn, you would ride that bitch everywhere. I wouldn't drive my car like ever again, right? And the unicorn is like magical, so you know it's got like telepathy and stuff, right? So you have a unicorn drop you off at the bar. All the girls see that you have a unicorn. They're gonna be like, "Who's that guy with the unicorn?" Right? You get drunk and like say like you want to take a girl home, like, "Hey baby, like you want to like ride home on a unicorn?" So you just think telepathically like, "Unicorn, come pick me up." Unicorn is like, "I got you, I'm there." Right? You can't get a DUI on a unicorn. You see where I'm going?
That's a good point.
Like so much better than being an astronaut.
All right, I'll give it to you. That's a good point. Better than Uber. What's up, guys? This is Burrs. I'm here with Nate Murr. He is the Director of Business Development at Connect Development Group. And we're going to talk about appendix carry. I have a ton of different questions and comments and all kinds of stuff. Seems like I'm addressing all that today with you. But I get a ton of stuff in regards to appendix carry. Also on the internet, I see a ton of different articles, a ton of different websites and YouTube channels talking about appendix carry. Some of them saying how dangerous it is or how potentially dangerous it is. So I thought we would delve into that today. So the first thing a lot of people will talk about is where it's pointed. It's pointed at your
what?
Penis. Directly at your penis head.
See, is it? Is it really?
I don't think it is. I think it actually grazes.
I think it's more about what gun you're carrying, right? So if you're carrying like a little pocket pistol that way, then yeah, it's definitely pointed at your junk, right? It's also pointed, maybe if it's canted, it might be pointed at your femoral artery, it might be pointed more inboard, so like, you know, your pelvic girdle. There's
yeah, like I have a sidecar here, and it is pointed.
So let me ask you,
it's not even pointed at my junk. It would actually graze my
like
ball
the dead
sack.
Space, right? So
then maybe I have a small penis.
I'm wearing a Vanguard 3 with a flashlight, right? So my muzzle's right here. So if I'm standing this fully erect, pun intended, right? And a round somehow magically went off while the gun in the holster, yeah, I think it would probably potentially clip my sack.
That's what
I'm not going to lose my member, all right? So the thing about this is like everybody talks about it being pointed at something. So I carried a full-size pistol for my entire adult life on my hip, right? Like classic FBI cant forward right here, like kidney placement, right? Where a lot of people still carry guns, and there's nothing wrong with that. I personally chose to give up on that system that I used for, I don't know, like well, better part of 15 years to go to appendix about 2 years ago. And the reason why was from going out to different training classes and training people like Rockwell Tactical and Sheriff of Baghdad and Matt Graham and all these other dudes. I'm like, the guys that I look up to, the guys that like I consider experts, right? So I'm like, I'm not a super high speed dude like these guys are. Why do these guys, all of them, carry appendix, right? And I kept asking the same questions, and they're like, well, the benefits outweigh the negative aspects of it, right? So the big thing is that when you draw the gun comes straight out, right? And then just like if I was drawing from the hip, as soon as it's clear of the holster, it's immediately oriented towards the target, right? So it's out, it's immediately oriented downrange towards the bad guy, and then I extend for my shot, right? So at what point am I flagging myself by doing that?
No different than 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
It's no different, because if I'm drawing from here, it's out, the gun's immediately oriented downrange, and it comes up and meets my support hand, and I'm on target and I fire, right?
Right.
The only thing is that where I see the risk of appendix is the reholster, right?
I agree.
So the reholster thing is that, like, some trainers like, don't look your gun in the holster, don't like look it in, right? So like you're like boom, 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 and reholster, right? And if you're wearing like a police belt or a battle belt or a kidney mounted concealment holster like outside the waistband, like yeah, that's perfectly fine, right? But there's guys that have shot themselves while reholstering all those configurations because something got caught in the trigger, and because they weren't looking, something actuated the trigger accidentally, right? Negligently, I should say, right?
Right.
So for me, because like yeah, like every time you go to reholster, it's like, and I didn't shoot my wiener off. Like a little voice in the back of your head every single time says that.
Confetti.
And the thing is, like every single dude that carries appendix, I guarantee thinks the same thing. It's like when you go do that reholster, like, and didn't shoot my wiener off, I'm good, right?
So let me ask you this, because this is what I tell people. If you're at the point where you're reholstering, you have a very good idea that the situation has cleared. to a degree, especially in like a home invasion, home
Right.
defense. So what I tell people is it's really not a big deal for you to take the holster out
Put it
and
in,
reholster it, and
yeah.
then holster the holster.
Like,
if that makes
the
sense.
way I was taught, and the way that I've taught like my Marines, and I've taught my friends, and I'm sure you've heard me say at least once or twice, is reluctantly holster. I love that term. That term was taught to me a long time ago by an old ranger named Bernie, right? Reluctantly holster. So let's look at it like this, right? Like the same people are the same people that'll complain about Glocks, right? So the manual safety is on the trigger. It's no different than a manual safety for 1911 that you have to actuate with your thumb, but it doesn't require a separate fault to actuate. It's like my finger straight on the trigger till I'm ready to fire. I make the decision to fire, so now my finger goes on the trigger and it depresses that safety mechanism, right? So Gaston Glock, when he came out with a Glock, he's like, what are the two conditions that a handgun is in? It's either in a holster where the trigger is fully shrouded and protected, where it's just in a safe condition, right? Or the gun is out and at the ready because I'm either getting ready to shoot somebody or I'm actively shooting the bad guy, right? At which case, my finger's straighten off the trigger until my sights are on target and I make the decision to fire, right? So if we look at that, the Glock trigger, and the Glock's one of the safest guns on the face of the earth. I can throw this thing off a 20-story building. It'll destroy itself on the ground before it accidentally goes off or negligently goes off, mechanically fails and fires, right? So appendix is the same way. It's either in the holster, and that's the thing is, if you're gonna carry appendix, make sure that you have a good hard sheathed holster like made out of Kydex, right? You don't want a floppy nylon or floppy nylon holster where it can bind and get stuck under the trigger. So as you're depressing the gun back in the holster, something binds the trigger and actuates it for you. That's how you get shot in the junk. That's how you get shot in the thigh, right? For me, it's one of those things where the trigger is fully enclosed, fully protected. What could possibly make this weapon go off right now?
Unicorn.
Magical unicorn, right?
How many of those we got around?
So outside of like, you know, a unicorn staring at your rig and being like, and go off, like it's not gonna happen, right? The gun, how I carry it 99.9% of the time, the trigger is fully shrouded and protected. Nothing can make it go off. The draw cycle of pulling out the gun, my finger is straight off the trigger. As soon as I grab the gun, I get that good master grip, the gun comes out of the holster, finger straight off the trigger. What's gonna make it actuate? What's gonna make it go off?
Yeah.
Nothing. The gun will only do what I tell it to do. So here's the thing, it's like the only way to have it ND is realistically putting it back in the holster. So as you put it back in the holster, if my like sweatshirt gets stuck
something
on the
gets
trigger,
caught in there.
something gets caught in it, and I drive down
Even the holster itself, if you get it caught in
holster,
there the
yeah,
right way.
and that's what I was saying about the soft holster, like a nylon holster or a leather holster. Something can get caught in that trigger guard and actuate that trigger for you. Because you're pushing down and then you're pushing the gun back down in the holster. Something could be pushing up on the trigger, right? So if you have the ability to, which 99% of the time you should, I look my gun back into the holster. All right, let's see it. It's properly aligned. Nothing's binding the trigger. And I'm back in. Gun seated in the holster is in a safe configuration. It goes back to being fully shrouded and protected.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
And a lot of people look at carrying in general as the draw is the most dangerous part when it comes to like having your finger on the trigger, negligent discharge, and all that stuff. A lot of people see the draw as the problem, but I don't see it that way. I've never really had a problem with the draw, nor have I had any concerns about the draw, because the draw you have the most control over, in my opinion. Like you said, you have your good master grip, your finger is off the trigger when you bring it out, you have a good control of the weapon like this. But like you were saying, if anything down in here, which there's a lot of shit going on down here, gets in the way, you're gonna shoot your wiener off.
Or put around through your femoral artery.
Yeah. Or through your thigh, or wherever
It doesn't matter if it's a grazing wound or it's something that severs an artery and you bleed out. It's a bad day no matter what.
Right.
So like here's my logic, right? This is what I tell people. Like, when do I draw my gun? I draw my gun when I have positive ID of a threat to me. I believe that this person or people are gonna visit grave bodily harm to me or lethal force and kill me, right? So here's the thing, it's like everybody's like, well, I'm scared I'm gonna get in trouble for brandishing, I don't wanna brandish my gun. Here's the thing, it's like if there's doubt, if you're that scared, if you're that concerned, you've already made a decision that this person's a threat to you. And if you don't have that confirmation, then why stick around? Leave. If you cannot leave, then wait, that guy has a weapon. Guns out right away, right? So for me, this is the way I look at it, is that once I make that positive ID that this person is a threat to me, they have a weapon, they're advancing towards me with a knife, I'm not gonna let them get to bad breath distance before my gun's out, right? Action beats reaction. So if I feel threatened and I'm justified in feeling that way, Mr. Gun comes out. Mr. Gun can stay at the low ready, Mr. Gun could be at the high ready, Mr. Gun could be in any number of configurations that's not pointing at a person. Is that brandishing? Maybe it is. But here's the thing, if the guy's a bad guy, he's probably not gonna stick around and talk to you about what mods you have on your pistol, okay? He's gonna leave. And if he doesn't, then you just confirmed your suspicion that he's a bad guy. You should probably start getting ready to fire, right? So my thing is, if I don't feel safe, there's a reason I don't feel safe. And I don't second guess myself when it comes to that feeling. When there's doubt, there is no doubt. Get the gun out, right? The gun's out. I don't feel safe. I'm ready to react so that it's not me reacting to the bad guy, to the lethal force, right? Mr. Gun stays out. Hey, Mr. Gun, do we feel safe? No, we don't feel safe. We're gonna stay out. Okay, I'm looking, there's no more threats. Maybe I already engaged the threat. Maybe the guy took off, whatever it might be. I'm not putting my gun away until there's no more threats, until I feel safe. Mr. Gun, I feel safe now. All right, let's reluctantly holster, right? So Mr. Gun doesn't need to be out anymore. I feel safe, there's no more threats. So what's the rush to reholster? I don't get bonus points for jamming it back in the holster, right?
You see it a lot with videos and stuff.
You see it, you don't get cool guy points for fast to reholster. So now that there's no more threats, I either engaged or didn't engage, but regardless, my gun came out for a reason. Now I'm gonna look my gun into the holster and reluctantly holster, right? But I'm only gonna do that when I feel 100% safe. My gun stays out until I feel safe. That's just the rule that I have for myself. It's worked well for me throughout my life. It worked for me well in deadly force encounters. So I'm not gonna change my principle. I'm not saying that you guys need to do it how I do it. That's just the way I look at it, right? Now, the other aspect of this is you have to do something with your hands that you can't hold your gun. That could be you putting a tourniquet on, that'd be you doing CPR on your wife because she got shot. It could be any number of things. So if you need to like stow the gun quickly, you might not be able to look the gun back into the holster. And this is very true for law enforcement officers, right? So a cop needs to cuff a guy. He gets the guy on the ground, he's fighting with a guy. It's really hard to put handcuffs on with a handgun in your hand. So what's he do? He reholsters so he can cuff the guy, right? So the thing is that if you need to do something with your hands that requires both hands and you need to reholster, you need to have a holster that allows you to reholster without actually looking. So that's going to be the majority of quality Kydex holsters out there where you can do it. I don't feel good about doing it, but I know 99.9% likelihood of doing it successfully and not accidentally shooting myself, right? And the thing is, if you're wearing loose garments and all this other stuff, if you don't believe that you can do it, then don't reholster your gun. Don't reholster it until you do it safely, because once you do it and it goes off, like there's no going back from that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. Like I said, I'm the guy that carried a full-size handgun with a flashlight on the kidney for like 15 years, right? And I gave up on it. And I went to a Glock 19 with a flashlight, with an RMR 2 years ago. And I've been carrying appendix for the same amount of time. Like, I completely changed the way I carried and the weapon I carried, almost everything about it. And I wish I would have done it 10 years ago. I wish I would have went to appendix 10 years ago for so many different reasons.
Yeah, so a lot of people will talk about how it's dangerous and whatever in regards to the positioning, but like you said, once it's in the holster, there's nothing gonna happen. So a lot of people say, oh, it's dangerous because you have it in the holster and it's pointing at your junk all the time, but 99.9% of the time, it's literally just sitting there with nothing related to it as far as going off or setting it off, because the holster, if you have a good quality holster, I have a CA holster here, you have a Raven there. If you have a good quality holster, you're not going to have that problem.
The other thing I tell people is you got to practice. You got to practice what you use, right? So if you have doubts about appendix carry as a whole, or about that new holster, this is the thing. It's like you shouldn't carry a weapon live until you prove your system to yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, that starts with just dry fitting, just doing dry fire drills in the house, and then going out to the range. I will continue to use my old system until I have 100% confirmation that my new system works as it should. So here's a really simple way to do that. Like if you wear the same style shirt every day, go ahead, unload your pistol, make sure that it's in the charged position, right? So you don't have a dead trigger. And then just walk around the house, do stuff, squat, pick stuff up, ride around, like just do different things to see if you can accidentally get it to go click, right? Because that click represents a bang.
Right.
If your system doesn't let you do that, then you have a bad system. You want to vet that before you go live.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I tell people is when you get a new holster, I mean any holster, take it to the range, dry fire it. That way you kind of get the muscle memory of the feel of the different whatever holster you're using. Yeah. But do it about 100 times, and if you can't get it to go click, you know, if you, just because of using a different, say you're going from, you know, 3-4 o'clock to appendix, and you're not used to that, or maybe you have a horrible trigger, you know, keeping your finger off the trigger or whatever, and if you can't get to do that in 100, you know, draws, then you should be able to kind of go to a live fire and feel relatively comfortable.
It goes back to when I was a kid, and I was carrying a 1911. I was in my early 20s, right? And I carried my 1911 hammer down around the chamber because I didn't trust my system. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust having the hammer cocked. Like, oh my God, it's so dangerous to have the hammer cocked and locked, right? There's no other way to carry a 1911. If you're going to carry a 1911, you carry it cocked and locked, or just don't carry a 1911 at all. Because if you think that you're going to thumb that hammer back when you're wrapped up in a deadly force encounter, you're wrong. That's how you have an ND. So the thing was, for me, like, ultimately what I did was I carried the weapon cocked and locked, because, all right, I'm still gonna have to physically do something. So what's the difference between me carrying cocked and locked? So I have to, I carried it like that for a month, right? With no round in the chamber. And after a month of no round in the chamber, hammer cock safety on, I didn't have the safety come off one time. I never had the hammer fall in an empty chamber, which is what I was worried about. Now, I feel like bad that I carried an unloaded gun for a month like that. But the thing is, I was starting out. It was like the beginning steps of my journey of CCW. So I proved in myself very young, very early on, that you have to carry your weapon in a fighting configuration. The configuration you want it to be when you have to react. So for me, and that's the thing, is like I find appendix a lot faster for the draw. I find it more adaptable for sitting in a vehicle, sitting in a chair in an office or a diner or a restaurant, whatever it might be. It's easier to get to with your support side hand. For me to get to my pistol, like say I have limited mobility with my gun hand, I need to draw my pistol out of the holster or do anything with my support hand. It's a lot easier to get to it from here than it is for me to reach all the way around to try to get off my kidney. Right. There's a lot of perks to it, and that's why I'm saying, like, for me, like, I'm not the ultimate Billy Badass. Like, I did more than some and less than others, and I respect my elders. I respect the guys out there that know infinitely more about this than me. And for me, default mode is, hey, I respect you. I know that you're an experienced shooter. You have all these accolades to you. Why do you do it this way? And the guy explains it. And I talk to your peers, guys just like you or better than you, and they all say the same thing. Well, that's what we call a clue. Like, who am I to question a Delta Force commando like John McPhee for carrying appendix, or a multiple combat deployment Green Beret like Jared Ross? Like, these guys know more than me. They did more than me. They're more experienced. So I ask them, and they tell me. It makes sense.
And so that's I guess the next thing is, if you have questions about it, and you hear a lot of stuff on the internet that can scare you if you're like a new shooter, or if you're someone who's carried a certain way. Now, I'm not here to make this video to say you have to appendix carry. I'm here to just to kind of talk about appendix carry in general, and a lot of people will kind of put a negative light on it. Yeah. But if you have questions about it, the next time you're at a course or something, talk to the instructors. You know, even reach out to them, maybe not at the course. I know John McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad, has Friday night questions, or he has Wednesday questions.
Like, these guys are available.
They're great times to reach out to different people and get different thoughts on things, and then go out and prove it yourself and feel it out.
My thing is, like, whenever somebody makes like a bold comment or a bold statement, I immediately want to know what they're backing it up with, right? So if I just go with, I don't like it, like, once again, it goes like, well, why don't you like it? Like, tell me about your experience with it. And so often, like 90% of the time, somebody has something negative to say about appendix. It's somebody that never gave it a try at all, or they didn't give it a fair shake. They like wore it for 2 days, said it was uncomfortable, or they had the wrong equipment. Like, they had the bad holster.
Yeah, and when it comes to appendix, that's huge.
It's huge, like really having the right holster. You might have to try 2 or 3 holsters till you find the one that works for you. Like, for me, it's a Vanguard 3. I won't carry a pistol without having a flashlight. This is the most simple system for me. It fits my body type, it fits the platform that I carry, the light and gun combo. It works for me. It's a system that I have proven to myself works. But before I got to this, I landed on this, I carried several other appendix rigs that I didn't like. I almost gave up on it. So it's like, you might have to play with it a little.
Yeah, and for instance, right now with me, I have this CA holster, which is kind of like a sidecar, and I don't have anything in the gun right now because I'm feeling it out right now. You know, I'm trying to figure out, is this kind of holster for me? I've never used one that's kind of combined. You know, is it my comfort level? And I've only had the holster for 1 day, so I'm not gonna have a live round in the chamber while I'm, you know, feeling it out, kind of like we talked about earlier. So you gotta feel things out. You gotta test things out. Hopefully, videos that I make and others make help you with making that decision and coming to those conclusions. But in the end, you gotta try it out for yourself.
This is true for virtually everything you talk about, Burrs. It's like, you know, we can point in the right direction, but it's up to you to go figure out whether or not it's right for you. The thing is, there's plenty of times where, you know, maybe carrying on your hips more appropriate. Like I'm not going to carry an appendix rig if I'm wearing a plate carrier. It's really hard for me to get to a pistol that's carried appendix if I have to put body armor on, right?
Or if you're John Wick, you want to.
Or yeah, like you're wearing a suit, like it's like there's guys that wear suits, like federal law enforcement, for example. If you're wearing a suit, appendix isn't a good method of concealing your weapon. It's not a good look, but like you can't conceal the weapon, right? So if you're doing any kind of like low profile stuff, it's a bad choice. You're gonna have to go back to the hip, and that's preferable to going to a shoulder holster. But then there's times where, like, if you're a limo driver and you spend 95% of your time behind the wheel driving, maybe a shoulder holster is your best option for what you're doing, the task that's at hand, your application.
Right.
So the thing is, like, there's no definitive like end all be all, like you have to do this or this is perfect for everything, because that's not true for virtually anything in the gun world.
Yeah, you don't put ketchup on everything. Maybe some people do, but you can't put ketchup on everything and expect it to taste good.
Can you truly trust a person that puts ketchup on everything?
I'm close, but I'm not there yet.
Like everything?
Almost. You don't put it on ice cream. That's a little funky.
But if you did, I would have questions about like sanity. You know?
Just like someone who said they can carry the same way for every environment.
Exactly.
You definitely question that person. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Is appendix carrying dangerous? No more dangerous than carrying any other way, in my opinion.
I would agree with that 100%.
Cool. So if you guys have any questions or comments or anything, go and put them down below. If you guys do appendix carry or don't appendix carry, and you want to get your thoughts out there on the subject, go ahead and make your own video about it and let us all know how you feel about it. And until next time, later. I'm not gonna let this 50 end my fucking day.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see.
You will.
Slow, steady squeeze. And you got your hit. Yeah.